Wait. A specific alternative is if I could add something. But the consequence arrived immediately. Tom says, wait, loudly. Tom shrinks in his seat. So here's the question. 3 phrases, 1 technique, and the confidence to speak up. Tom is in the meeting, eager to speak. He has an important idea about the project schedule. Tom has one urgent goal, to share his idea in the weekly team meeting without being rude or ignored. But Tom has a key point that would save the project time, but the boss is speaking rapidly without pausing. The useful wording here is, if I could add something. Opening state of a presentation pointer.
Tom's boss is speaking without any break, covering the schedule. Tom has a key point that could save time, but he can't find the right moment to jump in. The urgency is real.
The stakes couldn't be higher. If Tom stays silent, his valuable idea never gets heard. The entire project might miss an important improvement. Tom feels the pressure build. He must learn to interrupt politely or he'll regret it.
Tom is in the meeting, eager to speak. He has an important idea about the project schedule. Tom has one urgent goal, to share his idea in the weekly team meeting without being rude or ignored. A conference room during a weekly team meeting, one Thursday morning.
Tom has the idea ready in his head. He rehearses it mentally again and again. But when he opens his mouth, nothing comes out. The hesitation costs him his chance. If I could add something, that phrase would give him the confidence to speak up.
The boss frowns. Tom's face flushes. He sinks into his chair. The mistake is clear. He doesn't speak again. His idea is buried, because it demands attention without respect. A better choice would be sorry to jump in, but with a rising tone. But Tom learns this the hard way.
Now contrast that with a calmer approach. If he had said, if I could add something, Mr. Chin, with a steady tone, the boss would have paused. In the recording I showed him, I used that exact phrase, and my voice stayed low and polite. Can you hear the difference? The rising intonation at add makes it sound like a request, not a demand. That's the key.
The boss is in the middle of a long monologue and doesn't notice Tom's signals. Boss keeps talking, and Tom feels the moment slipping away. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. I thought the problem was only what happened, but his boss, Mr.
I played a clip for Tom from my own meeting. I used sorry to jump in, but with a rising tone. You could hear the boss pause and let me speak. Tom saw it works.
Tom felt more ready after practicing, but he's still worried about timing. The next meeting was tomorrow. I told him to watch for a natural pause, like when the boss takes a breath or looks at his notes. That's the moment to step in.
The boss picks up the pointer and starts explaining the new timeline in detail. Tom has a key point that could save 2 weeks, but he can't get a word in. The boss's voice fills the room, and every second Tom waits, his chance shrinks. Tom hears the pointer tapping the whiteboard, a constant reminder that time is running out.
Tom's heart pounds. Every second the boss talks, Tom's brilliant idea gets buried deeper. He knows if he doesn't speak now, the meeting will end and his point will be lost forever. He feels the pressure building in his chest.
In the next meeting, he saw the boss pick up the pointer and start a long explanation. His heart raced and the moment passed. The boss didn't notice and Tom's idea remained unspoken. That's a common struggle, knowing the right words isn't enough. Timing matters too. Keep practicing that phrase until it feels natural.
You need a phrase that works even when you're nervous. Try excuse me, just a quick point. It's short and respectful, and it signals you have something valuable. For example, excuse me, just a quick point on the budget allocation. Saying it calmly shows confidence.
But Tom doesn't use that phrase. He's too caught up in the moment. The boss pauses to take a sip of water. It's a tiny gap. Tom feels the window opening, but his chest tightens. He takes a breath, but the boss puts the glass down and continues.
Tom knows he only has a few seconds left. If he doesn't speak now, his idea will be lost. He takes a breath and prepares to jump in.
The boss is in the middle of a long monologue and doesn't notice Tom's signals. Boss keeps talking, and Tom feels the moment slipping away. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive.
Tom blurts out wait, loudly. The moment the word leaves his mouth, he knows it's wrong. Everyone turns to stare. The boss's eyes narrow. Tom feels the room freeze. He immediately regrets it and stays silent for the rest of the meeting.
Tom's idea never gets heard. The meeting ends, and he leaves the room feeling invisible. He failed to interrupt politely, and now he's kicking himself. He knows he should have used a better phrase, but the moment is gone.
Tom decides he must interrupt now or lose the chance. Tom blurts out "wait" loudly. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. I thought the problem was only what happened, but his boss, Mr. Listen to the linking in going back to what you said. Keep the words connected and stress the key idea. Now pronounce the complete example. Going back to what you said about deadlines, I think we can adjust.
Tom decides he must interrupt now or lose the chance. Tom blurts out "wait" loudly. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive.
Everyone stares at him. The boss frowns. Tom's face goes red. He immediately regrets it. That's the kind of reaction we want to avoid. It creates tension and shuts down communication.
The boss frowns and says, "Is there a problem, Tom?" Tom shakes his head and looks down. The room feels awkward. That's the consequence of an aggressive interruption. A polite phrase would have kept the atmosphere positive.
Tom decides he must interrupt now or lose the chance. Tom blurts out "wait" loudly. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. One detail to notice while saying it is I'd like to underscore on that.
Tom decides he must interrupt now or lose the chance. Tom blurts out "wait" loudly. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive.
Tom decides he must interrupt now or lose the chance. Tom blurts out "wait" loudly. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. One detail to notice while saying it is I'd like to underscore on that. Here is the practice line. I'd like to build on that. Repeat it once slowly, then say the example naturally. I'd like to build on that with a suggested timeline.
He couldn't bear another meeting where he stayed mute. That silence drove him to seek a better way. He approached me, desperate to learn how to interrupt without offending. That's when real progress began.
The meeting ended without Tom sharing his valuable idea. That deep disappointment motivated him to seek help. He knew he needed a polite phrase like, "Excuse me, just a quick point," to interrupt confidently next time.
Tom didn't get to share his idea. He realizes just waiting isn't enough. You need to interrupt politely to claim the floor. He's eager to learn the right phrases.
Tom walks up to Maya after the meeting. How do you interrupt without being rude? That's the turning point. He's ready to learn, and we'll show you exactly how.
Exactly, Leo. Tom's idea never made it out. He knows he can't just wait for a pause. He has to claim the floor politely. That's why he's ready for a new strategy.
Here's a phrase that could have helped him earlier. Before we move on, I have a quick question about the data. That's polite and direct. It signals you want to add something without being rude. You can use it too.
Tom's idea never came up in the meeting. He felt too embarrassed to speak again and stayed quiet the whole time. This shows that just knowing a polite phrase isn't enough. You need to speak up at the right moment with confidence. I could see he needed help with timing.
Tom feels deeply embarrassed and stays silent for the rest of the meeting. Tom's idea is never mentioned, and the meeting ends without his contribution. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. I thought the problem was only what happened, but his boss, Mr.
Tom feels deeply embarrassed and stays silent for the rest of the meeting. Tom's idea is never mentioned, and the meeting ends without his contribution. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive.
Tom feels deeply embarrassed and stays silent for the rest of the meeting. Tom's idea is never mentioned, and the meeting ends without his contribution. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. I thought the problem was only what happened, but his boss, Mr.
But when Tom had the chance, he froze. He thought, I know the phrase, but what if I say it wrong? The boss moved on, and the meeting ended without Tom's idea ever being shared. That's the cost of hesitation.
And the boss agreed. He said, "Good point, Tom." That's the payoff. Tom's idea became part of the plan. Why? Because he used a polite phrase at the right time. Let's practice once more.
He was still slumped in his chair. I said, "I noticed you struggled to get a word in. Want to learn a phrase that helps?" He looked relieved. I explained that "sorry to jump in" works because it acknowledges the interruption politely, which makes the other person less defensive. Then I showed him a recording where I used that exact phrase with a rising intonation.
Now Tom has a powerful tool. He walks into the next meeting with confidence, knowing he can interrupt politely when he has something valuable to say. That phrase changes everything for him.
After the meeting, I saw Tom slumped in his chair, clearly disappointed. He had a great idea, but didn't know how to interrupt politely. I remember feeling the same way once, so I walked over and said, "Tom, can I show you a phrase that works?"
So after the meeting, Maya walked over to Tom, who was still slumped in his chair looking frustrated. She said she noticed him struggling to jump in. Tom admitted he felt like his idea was lost forever. What did Maya suggest to help him fix that?
Then he can state his point. For example, "Sorry to jump in, but I have a quick update on the timeline." That phrase works because it's polite and direct. I also emphasize that the tone should be calm and the intonation rising at the end of "jump in" to sound friendly, not rude. He practiced it a few times.
But doesn't saying sorry make you seem weak? I thought you should be assertive in meetings. How do you say it without sounding uncertain? I need to know the right tone. Is it rising or falling? I've always hesitated because I didn't want to interrupt. Does this phrase really work?
Let me show you the phrase. With rising intonation, "Sorry to jump in, but..." See how my voice goes up at the end? That makes it friendly, not rude. Now you try it.
After the meeting, Maya approaches Tom and says she noticed his struggle. The next sentence needs to do one job clearly. A usable version is, "Sorry to jump in, but..." It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive.
After the meeting, I approaches Tom and says I noticed his struggle. The next sentence needs to do one job clearly. A usable version is, "Sorry to jump in, but..." It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive.
Just imagine Tom using that phrase in his next meeting. He says, "Sorry to jump in, but I have a suggestion." The boss stops, listens, and Tom's idea is accepted. That's the power of polite interruption. He'll feel respected.
Exactly. When you use polite interruptions, people actually value what you say. Tom's idea could have saved the project timeline. Now he can share it without fear. His team will see him as more professional. That's the real payoff. It's not just one meeting, it's building a reputation.
Maya, go ahead and play the recording for Tom. I want to hear how you used rising intonation. That's the key to sounding polite. Listen closely to how your voice goes up at the end of "Sorry to jump in." That rising tone signals respect.
I'm playing it now. "Sorry to jump in, but I have a suggestion about the timeline." Notice the rising tone at the end. The boss paused and said, "Go ahead." That's the power of acknowledging first. Tom could use this same phrase.
That recording really drives it home. Hearing Maya's calm tone with that rising intonation shows how polite interruption can be. It's a game changer for Tom. Now he sees that the same phrase said with the right tone can command respect instead of causing offense.
See the difference? When I said "sorry to jump in" with a rising tone, people didn't feel interrupted. They felt included. That's why they listened. Without that tone, your words sound like an order. Let's practice that rising tone now.
So Tom's next step is to practice this phrase with the right intonation. He needs to feel confident before the next meeting. Now he has a model to mimic. That's better than reading a tip. He can even imagine using the pointer like you did.
I shows Tom a recording of myself using "sorry to jump in" with a rising intonation. The next sentence needs to do one job clearly. A usable version is, "Sorry to jump in, but..." It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive.
Exactly. The phrase alone isn't enough. You need the right moment. Try it with a rising tone to sound friendly. So, question, why is timing so important? Because interrupting too early sounds pushy, too late loses the chance. Practice that combination.
In the recording I showed Tom, I used "if I could add something, Mr. Chin, I think the schedule needs a buffer." Notice the calm, confident tone? That's why it worked. It asks permission without sounding weak.
And you saw how that worked for Tom. So the lesson is clear. A polite interruption with good timing earns respect. Now it's your turn. Practice that phrase with a mirror, and next time you'll feel confident.
So that recording proves it's not about being aggressive. It's the combination of the right words, a polite tone, and good timing. Now we can practice those phrases together. Remember, the goal is to be heard, not to interrupt.
Tom's ready now. He practiced the rising intonation and the timing. And you can see the difference it makes. Let's see if you can do the same. Now you try.
At first, Tom's voice was flat. After a few tries, he found a balanced, polite pitch. He practices until it feels natural. Why does rising intonation matter? It signals politeness and that you have more to say. That's the key.
Tom's mirror practice pays off. His intonation now rises politely, making the interruption sound respectful, almost like a question. That rising tone signals you're not demanding, just adding. Feel how it invites attention rather than forcing it.
Tom, timing is everything. If you wait too long, you lose the moment. But jump in during a slight pause and you sound confident. Watch for a breath or a natural break in the speaker's rhythm. That's your cue.
Now the earlier behavior makes sense. Maya, as a colleague, shows Tom a recording of a previous meeting where she used sorry to jump in successfully and explains the intonation and timing. Tom practices sorry to jump in front of a mirror, focusing on tone and timing.
I watched Tom take a breath. He said aloud, sorry to jump in, but I have a point on the schedule. His voice sounded calm and steady. He repeated it 3 times, each time more confident.
Now the earlier behavior makes sense. Maya, as a colleague, shows Tom a recording of a previous meeting where she used sorry to jump in successfully and explains the intonation and timing. Tom practices sorry to jump in front of a mirror, focusing on tone and timing.
Tom picks up the presentation pointer. Holding it helps him feel more in control. He remembers the boss used it during his monologue. Now Tom uses it to signal he has something important to add. The pointer reinforces his confidence.
Now the earlier behavior makes sense. Maya, as a colleague, shows Tom a recording of a previous meeting where she used sorry to jump in successfully and explains the intonation and timing. Tom practices sorry to jump in front of a mirror, focusing on tone and timing.
Now the earlier behavior makes sense. I shows Tom a recording of a previous meeting where I used sorry to jump in successfully and explain the intonation and timing. Tom practices sorry to jump in front of a mirror, focusing on tone and timing.
Notice how jump in links together. It becomes jump in. This makes the interruption flow smoothly. Say it with me. Sorry to jump in, but practice that connection.
Tom practiced that phrase in front of the mirror, and his tone improved. But in the real meeting, when his boss picked up the pointer, Tom felt his heart race. Did he truly internalize the phrase?
Now the boss stands and picks up the presentation pointer. He launches into a long monologue about the timeline. Tom sees the pointer his tool, but the boss is talking rapidly. When should he interrupt?
Now the boss picks up the presentation pointer, signaling a long monologue. Tom sees his chance. The boss is about to dive into a topic Tom knows well. He leans forward, ready to use his new phrase. Tom remembers my advice. Wait for the slight pause, then speak.
Tom must choose the exact right moment. Too early, and he seems rude. Too late, and the boss moves on. He remembers Maya's advice. Wait for a comma, a breath, or a glance at the slides. The pointer is in the boss's hand. Tom could use it too.
The boss picks up the pointer and begins a long monologue. Tom, wait for a slight pause, then use, if I could add something. That phrase shows you have a valuable point.
I'm starting to see how the rising intonation on jump in makes it sound polite. Let me try that phrase now. Sorry to jump in, but I think that tone really helps. It feels less like I'm cutting someone off and more like I'm asking to join.
The boss picks up the presentation pointer and begins a long monologue. The next sentence needs to do one job clearly. A usable version is, sorry to jump in, but it works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive.
Now this is the moment. Tom remembers Maya's advice. He takes a breath and chooses the polite phrase. The boss is still talking, but Tom is ready. That decision changes everything.
He listens. Tom has the floor. The rising intonation made the difference. He spoke calmly and confidently. His idea gets accepted. That's polite interruption. Practice that rise.
The boss nods and says, "Go ahead, Tom." Tom takes the pointer from the boss's hand, walks to the screen, and explains his idea clearly. The room listens. Let's include that. His idea is accepted and added to the plan. Tom learned that polite interruption works, and now he owns it.
The boss picks up the pointer and launches into the budget numbers. He's going on and on. Tom watches. The pointer taps the screen. There's a tiny gap. That's his chance. He remembers what I showed him. Now he just needs to choose.
I think before we move on is another great way to stop the flow gently. For example, before we move on, can we confirm the deadline? It sounds polite and direct, exactly what we need. Let me practice that one.
Tom takes a breath. Chen. His voice is calm, with that rising tone at the end. The boss stops, takes a sip of water, then nods. That's the polite interruption working.
Tom hesitates, remembers Maya's advice, and takes a deep breath. The boss's nod proves the technique works. Tom feels a surge of confidence his idea gets heard. He now knows polite interruption is a skill he can rely on.
Why? It's polite and confident. It shows you respect the speaker but have something valuable. You can use it in any meeting. Remember the rising intonation. It signals you're not demanding, you're asking.
I'm realizing that picking the right phrase depends on the situation. If I need to jump in quickly, sorry to jump in works. But if I want to add to someone's idea, I'd like to build on that fits better. It's about matching the phrase to the moment.
That rising intonation is key. It turns an interruption into a polite request. Listen, excuse me, just a quick point? Now you try it with a rising tone.
Tom hesitates, remembers Maya's advice, and takes a deep breath. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. I thought the problem was only what happened, but his boss, Mr.
Now, Tom is about to speak. What phrase should he use? The polite one, if I could add something. Can you say it with me? If I could add something, Mr. Chen? Notice the rising intonation. That's how you sound respectful.
Tom's confidence is growing. He now knows he can contribute without being rude. And so do you. In your next meeting, look for a natural pause like a breath, then use your chosen phrase. You'll be heard.
I saw Tom hesitate. Then he took a breath. He was choosing his words deliberately. That's the key difference between his first failed attempt and now. He was about to use a polite phrase that asks for permission, which shows confidence and respect.
Tom is ready. He's waiting for the boss to pause. When he does, Tom will say, if I could add something calmly. That rising tone shows confidence without rudeness.
The boss takes a breath Tom's cue. He leans in, pointer ready, and says softly, if I could add something, Mr. Chen. Silence. His tone is steady, respectful. The boss stops and turns to him.
The boss stops and looks at Tom. He's given the floor. Tom explains his idea, using the pointer to highlight the timeline. The boss listens without interrupting. That's the power of a polite interruption.
During a slight pause, Tom says, if I could add something, Mr. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. Use your own line before the model. Keep this pattern in mind. Sorry to jump in, but... One complete answer is sorry to jump in, but... Now give a different answer aloud.
During a slight pause, Tom says, if I could add something. Mr. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive.
Tom uses the pointer to highlight the timeline. The boss doesn't interrupt him. Let's add that to the plan. Tom's idea is accepted because he used a polite interruption. He created his own chance instead of waiting for a perfect pause.
And notice, Tom didn't just wait for a pause, he created one with his polite phrase. That's the key. Use the right words to claim the floor. For example, saying, excuse me, just a quick point signals that you'll be brief, so the speaker is more willing to yield. The rising intonation, on point, also shows confidence. Try it yourself. Next time you're in a meeting, use that phrase and see how people respond.
Notice what Tom did differently. He didn't just say a phrase. He chose the right moment, delivered it with calm intonation, and made a valuable point. That combination polite phrase, good timing, solid content makes you sound professional, not rude.
During a slight pause, Tom says, if I could add something. Mr. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive.
Exactly. And notice the rising intonation on add something. It signals a request, not a demand. That little lift makes all the difference in politeness.
The boss stops talking and looks at Tom, giving him the floor. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. The scene itself is simple. During a slight pause, Tom says, if I could add something, Mr.
The boss stops talking and looks at Tom, giving him the floor. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. The scene itself is simple. During a slight pause, Tom says, "If I could add something, Mr."
Tom delivers his line calmly. The boss stops. Tom uses the pointer to explain his idea. Notice the rising intonation on "add something"? The boss responded to the calm tone.
Tom explains his idea using the pointer to highlight the timeline. The boss nods. "Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation." It works better because calm tone and polite phrasing encourage the boss to listen. One detail to notice while saying it is "if I could something."
Tom explains his idea using the pointer to highlight the timeline. The boss nods. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. One detail to notice while saying it is "if I could something."
The phrase "if I could add something" politely asks for permission. It's direct but respectful. For example, "If I could add something, the schedule needs a buffer." Next time you want to interrupt, try that phrase.
Tom explains his idea using the pointer to highlight the timeline. The boss nods. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. I thought the problem was only what happened, but his boss, Mr.
Tom explains his idea using the pointer to highlight the timeline. The boss nods. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive.
Tom explains his idea using the pointer to highlight the timeline. The boss nods. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. I thought the problem was only what happened, but his boss, Mr.
Tom took a breath and said, "If I could add something, Mr. Chen." Then he used the pointer to highlight the timeline. The boss stopped and gave him the floor. That's how a polite interruption works.
Tom explains his idea using the pointer to highlight the timeline. The boss nods. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. I thought the problem was only what happened, but his boss, Mr.
The boss said, "Let's include that in the project plan." He turned to the timeline and everyone looked. Tom's idea was accepted. That's the result of a polite interruption.
Let's include that in the plan. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. The scene itself is simple. Tom explains his idea using the pointer to highlight the timeline. The boss nods. Use "excuse me," just a quick point, with a calm, clear tone. For example, "Excuse me, just a quick point on the budget allocation." Say it again without overstressing every word.
Now Tom's idea is officially in the plan. His colleagues nod and smile. He feels a sense of accomplishment. He contributed without being rude. That's exactly what we want.
Tom's idea is added to the project plan. Colleagues nod in agreement. Keep the idea, but change the words for your real situation. It works better because it sounds impatient and confrontational, making the other person defensive. I thought the problem was only what happened, but his boss, Mr.
Then Tom picks up the pointer, points to the timeline, and says, "If I could add something, Mr. Chen." The boss stops, looks at the agenda, and nods. "Good point, Tom," he says. Everyone else nods too.
I watched Tom and learned something. No more blurting out. I'll practice the rising intonation tonight, so I sound polite and sure. That phrase buys you a moment to speak without sounding rude.
And then the boss says, "Let's discuss that in our next steps." So Tom's suggestion becomes part of the project plan. His colleagues nod in agreement. That's the result of a calm, polite delivery.
So Tom's experience shows that polite interruption works. Another useful linking phrase is "going back to what you said." It smoothly connects your comment to the previous point. And practice the sound linking in just a quick point to sound natural. That will help you speak fluently.